Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Saeed, a DevOps engineer and a certified Kubernetes enthusiast. Today's video is a little bit different, although it still follows the same suit with the containers. We'll have a bit of Docker and a bit of Splunk. So in this video, we're going to dissect what Splunk is and the crucial role that it plays in modern software development and security. At its core, really, there are three main components. We've got the search head, the indexer, and the universal forwarders or agents. The search head effectively acts as the central intelligence, allowing you to query your own sort of logs or any sort of data set for that matter. It facilitates the data analysis and visualization. The indexers effectively serve as the backbone. They efficiently store vast amounts of data. And the forwarders, they play the role of the data gatherers, almost like the agents. They effectively are the agents, basically, if you think of it like that. They're like the scouts that gather data from diverse sources and effectively transmit them into the indexes for storage and analysis. Together, these components form a robust ecosystem that effectively fosters seamless collaboration between development and security teams. And what does that do except enhance the security? For more details and information, I'll provide all of the resources down below in the description box in that README of the same repository that we've used. For anyone new around here, consider subscribing if you find value in this content. The idea is to effectively take some of these complex technologies and make them as easily understandable as possible, and also able to effectively put them into practice, as we'll be doing in this video. We'll take Splunk, we'll run an indexer, right, as a container, port forward, and we'll actually open it up. And we'll actually have a little look to see what that looks like from the inside. I'll take you guys through that in just a moment. For our data, we won't be using the universal forwarders. We won't be having agents. We're going to directly ingest our payload. And that payload that we'll be ingesting will be dummy data sets provided by Splunk directly. So a little bit more about Splunk. Splunk has been acquired by Cisco. Cisco obviously being that giant powerhouse or big player in tech more in general. But yeah, Splunk effectively allows you to basically just centralize your logs. If say you had an application, say take a Kubernetes pod for example, we know that we could just simply run kubectl logs and then give the name of that pod. But what if you had hundreds, if not thousands of pods? How are you gonna keep track? How are you gonna look for any sort of anomalies within your environment if without applications like Splunk? Cool. So without further ado, let's crack open our terminal. We're gonna quickly pull down the Docker image for Splunk. That will be Splunk repo, and that will be here. Sorry, my apologies. And the version being the latest. I've previously pulled it down before, so it should have cached most of the steps. So hopefully that will just pull down nice and seamlessly. That was a pretty naive assumption from my part. It definitely didn't go seamless. So anytime you see the screen going black and white or the video being sped up, it's likely a dependency being installed. So for your experience, I made it go faster such that you can enjoy and learn as much as you can in a short amount of time. Now that's been pulled down locally. We're just going to quickly validate that by running docker images -a. So you can see here we've got the Splunk image down locally. Now that means we should be able to run this command here to actually build out the container and run it. Now this will take a little while to run, I'd imagine. It will have a number of different log outputs. And then once we actually have our Docker container, so if I do docker ps or docker ps in general, we'll see here that the Splunk image, the Splunk container is built or building, and the health is actually at starting. So once this is down to healthy, we'll proceed from that point. So you can see here it's still building out. Once this is down to healthy, we'll be able to port forward directly onto the container, and we'll take it from there. Okay, cool. So that took about 10 minutes to get to a healthy state. So now we can head back over to our browser and in fact crack open that making sure that we specify the correct port that was exposed. I think it was 8001. Yep. And here, what we're about to see is the Splunk UI. Should prompt us to log in. Right, there we go, admin, and that password that we gave, which was test1234. Just as a heads up, by the time you view this video, I would have definitely scaled down. So just gonna crack it back open again to remind myself of what that password was that I passed it then. I think it was 1234. Just a moment. Yeah, 1234. And yeah, like I've already established, you know, the general rule of thumb when you are using a centralized, you know, login using Splunk services, you'd probably have agents on multiple different, you know, server systems, applications, for them to then, you know, effectively forward over those logs. So you can, you know, use these search heads. What I'll be doing here is I won't be using the universal forwarders. I won't be using other external applications. I'll just be, you know, ingesting the dummy data that, you know, we looked at from the official Splunk documentation. Just as a heads up, be sure to you know, cross-check any kind of data that you'll be ingesting, making sure that, or even before you even download them for security best practices, make sure you have a look at their you know, their authenticity. So here we are. What we can see right from the off, it looks pretty neat, looks pretty clean. You get, you know, greeted from the Splunk Enterprise application, and yeah, like I said, you obviously be able to query your, or you know, query your data or your logs via the search nav or the search bar. And here's where it really gets exciting. Here's effectively where you're supposed to be seeing, you know, your information, but of course we've got nothing to view right now. If we just put the asterisk as a wildcard and we just set the date to maybe, you know, all time, we're not going to see anything, of course, because we have no data ingested, so it'll give us 0 logs. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add some data, and the data we're going to add is the tutorial data as a zip file, which I've already installed. I have locally. Just wait for that to pop up. Once we ingest that, we'll be able to, you know, make more sense of what we actually have. So we'll just give that a moment. There we go. We don't want a tool right now, at least. Upload. Just like that. There we go. It's picked up that selected file, and we'll just hit next. Input settings, we'll leave it as the default. We could review that. It looks good to me. And then we'll just give that a moment. It may take a few minutes to upload, but what we could do for now is we could actually look to see the contents of the zip file in its raw format. So yeah, there we go. It's picked up the files now successfully. So we can hit that start searching button. And before we do that, we'll actually have a little look at what we have from our application. And just take this over here. I've got two monitors, so yeah, this is what we have in our application. This is the tutorial data file unzipped. So you can see we've got a number of different sort of logs. We've got access logs. If we open one of these up, we'll be able to see what we're working with. Just bear with for just a moment. And you could just see a whole load of log entries, and it's just it's a lot of logs. And if you even look, you know, it's a lot of information. You've got IP addresses, you've got, you know, dates, you've got, you know, and, you know, logs. You know, this is a zip file with a number of different logs. So effectively, this is supposed to consolidate all of those logs, centralize all of those logs into this one, one location where now we could actually, view, we could see over 1,000 different events in what we're looking at here. So if, say, we look at the source and we say, okay, we want the source to be tutorial data underscore zip. Actually, no, we don't want that. We want to start afresh. We can actually look at the interesting fields here. For example, we can look at, say, for example, the statuses, and we can see all of the different, stats 200s here. So if we get stats 200s, it'll obviously filter them down, and you can see here we've got, an event from this IP address. We can actually filter it down further by hitting that sort time. And if we say, let's run that, we want to sort it by time. Okay, and that would give us a chronological ordering of these different events, such that if we're looking for anomalies, or if we're trying to pick up on, particular behaviors from particular, maybe a specific actor, maybe a bad actor, we might pick up on this IP address. We could just take that and add it to our search once again. So now we're looking at actions taken by this IP address that got a stats 200. Maybe that's something that 10th of March or May, 2024 at this particular time, followed, at maybe 6:13, followed by, another request, 10 minutes later. This is, this may not, directly be of any kind of interest, but in the event of, an investigation, you get the idea of how we could start sieving through. So on this top section here, we've got the Splunk query language, where we're able to actually look deep into it. But you've also got the ability to, make those changes. You can obviously add different, segments into your application, or into your query, by directly typing it and, selecting it and pasting it into the search engine. And it allows you to narrow things down so minutely, such that you're able to look, and find different things out that you probably wouldn't be able to see if you were just looking at, raw data. So you kind of get the idea of what we're talking about here with regards to, these different, centralized logs. So, I mean, that's effectively Splunk on a very, very high level. Of course, there are many other offerings from Splunk. This is one of their main deals, particularly for enterprise organizations. If if you're a government, or if you're a company that heavily relies on events, then this is the kind of tooling that you need as your SIEM. And obviously Splunk being one of the leading SIEMs being security, incident and event management systems. Splunk is definitely one of those top ones. There are other ones that possibly may look at sometime in the future, like the the EOK stack. Perhaps we could spin up a container, or run it in our Kubernetes environment. But the idea behind these sort of videos is to take those those complex applications that perhaps you wouldn't have experience with otherwise, and make spin them up so simply with Docker, Kubernetes, and expand our toolbox of knowledge. So it's really, really important, if you are looking to get into the space, or if you are in the space, that you are looking at applications like this and you're aware of them at the very least. So yeah, thank you very much for sticking around. If you stuck around this far, hopefully you learned something valuable. And if you did, and if you find any kind of value in any of my content, then I'd highly appreciate a subscribe, a like, and a comment, just to let me know that you found value in this. And if not, then definitely let me know what your feedback is. Let me know what you guys like to see some going forward in the future. I'll be picking up on this channel for hopefully days to come. And yeah, all the best and happy learning.